I've already talked about how many people can't be an exotical, but I never really talked about if you are an exotical. So in this video, I want to talk about those things. So number one is that your experience as a woman or as an exotical is not the same as a monoracial, unambiguous. I'm gonna say for at least for me, in the case I grew up, black women or men. So what I mean by this is that you usually go thrown in and out blackness. So I'm going to kind of go through the isms because with as an exotical, you do benefit from the isms. And over here in this channel, we're not going to shame you if you do benefit from the isms. You know, we're not going to shame you for it because we can't shame you for something you can't control. That's just straight up prejudice, you know? So, what I mean by this is that your treatment of dating is different from an unambiguous woman, you know? You usually don't have to question if he likes black women, if he doesn't like you because you look unambiguous. I mean, unambiguous, you know? And another thing is that actually, let me talk about the isms. I'm sorry, I kind of got off track. Number one, with colorism, you know, they do the paper bag test on you. So let's say you are light skinned and you tan, and they be like, oh, well, you got a little darker, so you look like us now, you look like us now. They police your tanning. And I'm about to make more videos about this, but I really say do that with you, you know? Or like they be like, oh well, my nose is just as thin as yours. My nose is just as thin as yours, you know. And it's like okay. Also too, I realized that when you be like, oh well, I am light skinned, you know, when you identify as being light skinned, sometimes they be like, oh no, well, you're not as light as her. My aunt is lighter than you. They do a whole paper bag test without them realizing they're doing a paper bag test. And which is so weird, like, you know, because you never really see it happening with if you was to say you're dark skin or you're brown skin, you know, or let's say you compliment your skin tone, you know, and you be like, oh well, I love having this mocha skin and whatnot, right? And someone gets offended because or who's either darker than you or your color because you embrace being that color, and they be like, oh well, you know, like they basically try to compare you to someone else or try to downgrade you. You know, I noticed that with being light skinned, or like if you're I noticed with those things, you know what I'm saying? Um with texturism, I realized also is that they they often accuse you of wearing a wig because your texture is a little looser than the typical 4C. So what I mean by this is that usually they try to gaslight you. Well, at least in my opinion, they try to gaslight me with saying, "Oh, you know, you have all black people here. You know, you have that nappy hair. So like, and when reality had 3C hair." And I remember how one girl, because she was trying to tell me what to do with my hair. I was like, I'm not trying to get advice from you because me and you are not the same. And she didn't know I was multiracial because I didn't tell her that. And I remember how she said, well, I think she had an idea, but still, she was one of those girls that did the one drop rule. And I remember at one point when we was talking about our hairstyles one night, she said, if I were you, I would do this to our hair one night. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that with my hair. And she said well, you know, we all of us black people have the same hair type, which is completely false. Because if that's the case, we want to be having a conversation of what type of hair type you have, what type of hair porosity, you know, those things. So I noticed that. Or sometimes if you don't define your 3C, 3A curls or whatnot, they would try to call you nappy headed, you know? Also, too, let's say you have 4C hair, you have long, you know, healthy 4C hair, and they probably walk up to you to be like, if I had all that hair, I would donate it. And it's like you never asked for their opinion, you know? I would say along with texturism, also too. This is my opinion, but if you have long 4C hair, you kind of benefit from texturism only because of what at least from what I seen, where they be like, oh, how you got that long 4C hair? Oh, you must be mixed with something. Oh, it's genetics, it's genetics, it's genetics. You know, they try to blame on genetics. When I so I kind of would say you're on the lines of texturism if you have 4C hair. It's really long and healthy. Also, too, I kind of did feet colorism, texturism. If you have any stories or you feel as though um, there's more to the feature and texturism that you feel like I'm kind of missing that people also benefit, or you notice that people trying to humble exoticals for having, please let me know in the comment section. For your featurism, one thing I noticed is that they try to they try to downgrade you by saying some, oh, he only beautiful because he has those eyes, like Aaron Pierre, for example, like because he benefits from uh, being light skinned and having beautiful eyes, and good for him, you know. And I remember people in a unambiguous black woman be like, oh well, he's only beautiful because he had those eyes, you know. If he didn't have eyes, he wouldn't be beautiful. It's like, duh. Like, and when about it, they try to check you for what you have. It's like, okay, and what about it? You have to have and what about it mentality if you're exotical, because they would try to put you down, they try to humble you. You gotta be like, okay, Anne. Okay, Anne, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Okay. Also, too, they try to be like, oh well, you look like a regular smuggler black person, and they try to compare you to who you look like, you know, as a way to downgrade you. Like, I remember how, for example, Beyonce is an exotical. You know, she's a beautiful exotical, and I remember in the early 2000s when they trying to compare themselves to Beyonce, they'd be like, oh well, I look like Beyonce. Is a dark skinned unambiguous black woman that try to say that she's Beyonce. Remember that whole Tiffany, New York with Flavor Flav, and that one episode with that girl with the big eyes. You know who I'm talking about, right? And that scene when they was in the room and they was arguing. She's like, well, people say I look like Beyonce. And remember, they all laugh at her face because she's delusional. Yeah, that's how people sound when they try to criticize an exotical. Yeah. I still think about that rent free sometimes because it's so funny how they try to compare themselves, try to be like, well, she look like a regular black person. They try to do that with Rihanna, they try to do it with Cassie, Aaliyah. When reality, they're an exotical. There's nothing wrong with, and they try to make you feel bad for being exotical, or they try to think you're uppity if you think you're exotical. In reality, you're not. You're embracing who you are, you know. And also too, I want to make a video how if they when they do those things, they also want you to represent them. I'm about to do a video later on about that, and you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I've noticed. I also noticed a little bit in the white community because I grew up a little bit in the white community as well. Is that they they try to do that to even white girls. I realize they do that where they be like, oh well, you know, Margot Robbie is an average if she goes to this country. And the country is like South Korea. I'm just like, they're hating so bad because if that's the case, how come Margot Robbie's literally Barbie? You know, they would put you down because they're not you. Being exotical, you benefit from these things. Not everyone can be exotical, and the only way you can be is either A, you change yourself physically, you know, It's one of those things. So not everyone can be exotical. And you still being exotical if you're, because I know I talk about being multi-racial, being biracial, but you also could be exotical if you're monoracial, you know what I'm saying? Or if you're, what's it call it? Um, yeah, I think that's what I meant to say. Sorry. But I also noticed too how with these humbling tactics, they try to make you feel bad for being exotic. I'm letting you know right here in this channel, don't feel bad. If you love you have 3C hair, bingo. If you love you have that long 4C hair that many, no offense, and the biggest black women don't have, love it. If you love that you have, oh, also too, I'm about to make videos on how you could put your ambiguity and you with your body too, because with your body, I don't think people notice too, is that depending on your body and depending on what colors you wear, at least for me, like your body weight and your colors you wear and things like that, you can play with your ambiguity like significantly. At least I think it works for me in my favor. But yeah, I will talk more about that in another video. But anyways, over here, we don't shame you. If you benefit from these systems, love it. And explore it, period. Anyways, what you think? Like, comment, subscribe, Exotical Barbies. And yeah, period.